For our next keynote, we have Mr. Aditya Ghosh, co-founder Akasa Air, give us his insights into the aviation industry. Mr. Ghosh is currently a member of the board of directors at Akasa Air, Oyo Hotels and Homes, Green Cell Mobility, Tweet Foundation, and Ashoka University. He is also an independent director at Russell Kamer International Airport. He is the chairperson of the Social Enterprise Central Body of SIVA and is a member of the CII National Committee and chairman of the CII National Committee on Skills Development and Livelihood. Please put your hands together for Mr. Ghosh.
Now that we are back from coffees, I'm going to take you on a slight diversion away from hotels for just a bit. Lots of familiar faces. I feel like I'm a bad penny that keeps coming back to a hotel convention. So I'm going to take 15 minutes to take you into what I feel will be the not so distant future of aviation and urban mobility, not passenger airlines. So I'm going to talk about this company that I co-own, where we are developing something pretty exciting, not too far from here. It's called the E-Plane Company. So if you kind of ask yourselves, having fought through traffic, some of you 2.5 hours from Grand Hyatt, what is wrong with the way we commute today? Well, most of us will spend about 3 years of our life in traffic. If you're in India, it will be a bit longer because Indian cities are about 149% more congested than even other Asian cities. 27% of all air pollution is contributed by road transportation of some sort. We spend about 2 to 5% of the GDP loss every year because of traffic congestion. And there's a very morbid statistic that there is 1 road fatality in our country every 4 minutes. So what if there was a way that you could imagine that instead of being stuck in traffic for 3 hours every day, or during your vacation, you're stuck for 2 to 3 hours in these narrow roads, what if there was a way of imagining your next vacation where you could skip roads completely? And I'm talking about intracity, short-haul intercity. What if there was a solution that could be 7 times faster in terms of the time to commute? What if it cost you only 1.8x of a similar Uber ride? What if it was 10 times quicker to actually deploy overall traffic and ground infrastructure that was needed for it? And what if there was 0 operating emissions while doing all of this? Sounds pretty magical, sounds pretty out there. So India, a country as large and blessed with diversity as we are, and all of us have benefited from it in the hotels business, in the tourism business. We've got peaks in the north, we've got lakes and water in the south, but very few people have access to it. These are these gorgeous, beautiful pictures of these Hogenakal Falls, not too far from Bangalore, right? But if I asked many of you as to if you've been to these falls, and I'll also tell you, by the way, there are almost no hotels there, you'll wonder why. So I'll tell you why. The reason is that the nearest railway station is over an hour away. Roads, if you're on a lucky day, it'll take you about 3 to 3.5 hours to get from Bangalore to these beautiful waterfalls. And then all the logistical hassles of trying to create a hotel there and transport traffic there and tourism there. What if you could find a way to do this in a solution that was safe, that had low acquisition cost? So imagine the cost of an expensive high-end car, easy maintenance, so that you're not deploying and employing tons of people trying to keep it going? What if it just landed from a size of half a basketball field? Right? What if it had high operational reliability so that you could do a lot of these trips? And you could set up the next generation air traffic management, all in the next 3 to 4 years. What if you could defy gravity with this solution? This is the ability to do the same reaching the Hogenakal Falls in less than an hour instead of the 6 hours that it takes currently. Zero operating emissions, and imagine the impact that it can have on ecotourism. This solution is something that is time efficient, and yet it delivers you at a cost that we can all afford. As I said, less than twice what it would cost on an Uber ride. Let's talk about Delhi, Missouri. Some of us have homes there or are frequent travelers there. Currently, it's a 35-kilometer destination. There are 25 hairpin bends, and on a typical day, you'll have 2 to 3 hours of gridlock on these roads. So we did some primary research and came up with those cities which are low on cost and high on time, currently high on time. And that's the data that you see. We did this primary research across dozens of cities in India and across some parts of the world. The solution that we are looking at, and while there are dozens of actually very, very well-established solutions out there trying to solve for slightly longer distances, what we are trying to do is with the E200X, we are trying to solve for multi-hop, short haul, compact design, so that you can take off from somewhere which is very close to where you are, take you to very close to where you are. You don't need large helipad sort of infrastructure. Like I said, less than half the size of a basketball court. This is a 3-passenger solution, 1 pilot and 2 passengers, which can ultimately become autonomous. It has a range of about, on a single charge, of about 100, 110 kilometers, which allows you to do multi-hop. Flies at about 100 miles an hour, and takes only about 25 to 30 minutes for a full charge on the lithium-ion battery. This E200X is something which is just imagine it like a little car with less of the bells and whistles. There's a little bit of space for baggage. But because it is doing very short haul, it does not need the rest of the paraphernalia that comes when you're trying to do longer distances. These are certified design-approved renderings of what it might look like with some changes to it. And when just the amount of time that we are stuck in traffic starts costing that much, like I said, 3 to 5% of our total GDP annually is lost due to traffic. And of course, not to talk about the logistics of transporting goods. It's time that we look at a solution that is cost-effective and yet able to, answer for this intra-city and intercity problem. How are we trying to deliver this cost advantage? We have a unique problem on our hands. The unique problem that we are trying to solve for is that it has to be something which is compact so that it can land in or take off from very, very congested places on top of rooftops, etc. It has to be able to do a reasonably long 100, 110 kilometers on a single charge, because of which there has to be a slow flight. Now that's a mathematical problem, because if you have a short wingspan and you want to fly slow, that is a conundrum. So the team has come up with a patented technology called the synergistic lift, which is now patented over 30 countries, and which is trying to solve for this. So it will not be a very fast journey, But then our assumption is that when you're going about, say, 20 minutes or so, or 15 to 20 minutes flights, whether it takes 14 minutes or 17 minutes is not going to be the really critical decision factor. What would be a critical decision factor is the accessibility and that ability to land and take off from very, very congested places. There are 5 levels of redundancy in this thing, so because safety is a very, very big concern. Unlike a helicopter, you're not dependent on one main rotor. There are several main rotors. There are several rotors. There is distributed electricity distribution. There is a ballistic parachute available in case there is all loss of power. Unlike a helicopter, because there are wings, there is the ability for aerodynamics to take over for glide. And finally, the fuselage itself can withstand 16 G of crash. Now, something like this then leads to the question that if you have literally tens of thousands of these flying around, will that lead to a traffic jam up in the skies? You know, how will the trajectory work? So the team, the heritage of this company comes from folks who are working on rocket technology for the past 20 years. So any of these origin destination flight paths are predetermined. So they are fixed flight paths to then creating dynamic flight paths. And ultimately, when the regulation allows for unmanned, then you can do this all by itself, where there are 3 loops of deep learning algorithms, which are at one level stabilizing the aircraft, at the second level detecting, recognizing, and avoiding collision, and finally the last one, which is learning from several pilot decisions to see that finally when we go to autonomous, then that machine is learning on how to tackle these situations so that you can avoid collision, you can deviate, and then you can come back to the original flight path. Part of this deviation and this recognition of any kind of obstacles that comes in your course comes from fusing 3 types of sensors that are there, which is cameras at the first place, radar, and LiDAR. We use multiple types of neural networks to try to see that how can you operate this flight at a speed, a cost, and a distance, and a charge, and that can work within that envelope that we have just described. Because these types of vehicles are very power guzzling as they take off and land. And clearly, then there are other applications, whether it is healthcare or whether it is cargo. In India, at an average, ambulances take anywhere between 30 minutes to 3 hours to access a patient. With the burst of quick commerce and e-commerce, 47% of e-commerce costs are sitting in logistics. So what if ambulances did not need roads? What if we could do emergency evacuation? What if we could do remote rural healthcare through some of these vehicles? So the Ministry of Health has pushed us to design a version where it'll allow one pilot, a paramedic, and a stretcher with a patient to access those remote areas. ICAT has signed an MOU to look at one of these air ambulances for each district of the country. Similarly, cargo, we don't have cold chain. So what if you could do temperature controlled cargo, and what if you could kind of, beat the amount of traffic that it takes to get to, the remote pin codes which delivery systems are still trying to cover. We also feel that obviously this is going to make a huge impact in tourism, in ecotourism, making places accessible, all the way from very affordable, cases where you have, a fleet of these lines, imagine it like a bus stand or an Uber stand, to where there are very exclusive solutions for customized customers and guests. And all of this is actually well within reach. This is happening around the world. In our case, this is the only and first Indian company which has got the design approval from the regulator. We're looking at a commercialization in the next, say, 3 years. First with the cargo, second with the ambulance, and then third with the passenger mobility. And all of this is happening in IIT Madras. This is the same team which put the Agnikul rocket into space at a fraction of a cost on what is the development cost for some of these solutions around the world. The founder is Professor Satya, who is the very famous person behind the Hyperloop, the Agnikul, and of course the E-plane. So for us, it's not just a way of transportation, but it's a way of reimagining how we will interact and live in our cities, make lifestyle choices, and look to invest for the future. Thank you very much.